Good morning. Welcome to Fixit Finance. We have a good one for you today. My name is Fikayo, and today we are discussing how to invest in Canada. So, if you're new here, welcome to Fix It Finance, where I help you take control of your money, so you can be free to seek God. You can be free to do exactly what God has called you to do, amongst many other things. Like I always say here on Fix It Finance, when you get your finances right, your prayer points will change. A lot of our prayer points are wisdom related. There's some things that if we're able to get right from a wisdom perspective and a grace perspective too, you know, um and of course even a power perspective, but I'm going down a complete tangent that we'll be able to get extremely right. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I am recovering from a cold and your girl is very sleepy today, so I apologize in advance if I'm sounding all nasal and whatnot. But don't forget to hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. I release shorts and long form videos. At least I've been consistent, thank God. I think every day now I do at least one short, and then once a week I do a long form video so you learn something. Last week I put out a video about questions to ask before you say I do, so make sure you check that out. I also put out a whole bunch of long short videos on different subjects. I go live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. This is where I teach you so many things on this channel. I've been going live since I believe March every Saturday. And I thank God for the grace to be consistent. Today, we are going to be discussing how to invest in Canada. Now, as you know, this particular subject is quite robust. So I'm trying to um, I'm doing an overview today, per se. So if you're a newcomer to Canada, or you are someone that has been in Canada a while, but you haven't even had time to look at investing because you were just busy surviving, and you're starting to get your finances in order, you're starting to get to that point where, okay, I want to know what investing is about and I want to learn more. So today is for you. If you uh, are here, don't forget to share and let people know that we're on, and we will get right into it. So before I get started, I wanted to do a public service announcement. So ask me how. You know how I always talk here on Fixit Finance: monitor your credits, monitor your credits, monitor your credits. And you people will be looking at me as if I'm speaking Spanish. Ashe, my Spanish has come to roost. So I check my credit score using a website called Borrowell. My credit score and my credit report, I keep track of it using Borrowell. There's a link at the bottom of this video if you're on YouTube and if you're on Facebook. um Make sure you sign up if you don't have anything you're using to monitor your credit. If you do, good job. So also, if you know, most banks in Canada now, at least the top 5 banks, they let you check your credit score for free, your TransUnion credit score. So there are different credit bureaus out there. There's TransUnion, there's Equifax. Those are the top two. There are more, but those are the top two we reference in Canada. So Borrowell, for example, lets you see your credit report and your credit score through Equifax. And then the one through my bank lets me see through TransUnion. Okay. So you don't have to pay to monitor your credit report or to monitor your credit. So with those two free services, I've been monitoring my credit. So ask me how last week I log in and I'm like, my credit score at TransUnion dropped by like almost 100 points. And I'm wondering what the heck happened. I've not opened any new accounts. I've not done anything new. I've not, there's nothing, there's no activity on my credits, you understand, that would warrant a drop. Okay. I didn't close any accounts either. And I look at it and I say, okay, what's going on? I didn't even bother checking the delinquency or collection section, just because I know for sure I've been keeping track of my finances for years and years. So I know all the accounts I have open. I'm very diligent because I've been dinged before when I was younger. So even when I close an account, I always make sure to get a final bill that shows zero. So everybody and their auntie knows that we are in the clear. So I look at my credit, I was looking at my credit report, there was nothing out of the ordinary. So I checked it again last week or sometime this week, and I looked and there was a collection on my account for an account that I don't even deal with. So a company I don't deal with at all. So lo and behold, I ended up putting in a dispute because it's not my account. So you can't collect on something that does not belong to me, because it's for example, it's a utility bill. And in my city, the only provider of utilities is the city. So we don't have any third, the way like in some cities they have EPCO, MMAX, this, that. We don't have that in my city. The only person you can buy utilities from is the actual city of Medicine Hat. You understand? Anyways, the whole point of that spiel is to remind you guys, when I tell you all the time, monitor your credits, because they ended up posting somebody else's information on my credit bureau, okay, showing that I was in collections for something that happened in June on an account that I don't even know exists. It's not my account, okay? So this is why it's very important to monitor your credit, to check your credit score, and to see what's happening there, okay? If nothing else, I hope let me serve as a reminder to you to do that. Okay. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to tell everybody that we're on. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. Okay, I already went through the monitor your credits, and then okay, so let's start today. Okay, so if when it comes to investing, one of the things you need to understand are, what exactly can you invest in? So when you decide you want to invest, the first thing you want to understand is, okay, what exactly can I invest in? Like, where can I even put this money? Okay, so one thing you must understand is money must always be on assignment. Money must always have a purpose behind it. The Bible talks about money has wings. Okay, it's going to fly away if you don't give it work to do. Okay, for example, if you have, let's say you have $5,000 in your account right now, you've not designated it as anything, either as savings, investing, nothing. It's just sitting in your account. You've not even said, okay, this is my rainy day fund. Even if you don't spend that money, people around you will help you spend that money. All of a sudden, somebody will call, there's emergency here, there's need there, there's this, that, and the other thing there. And you will find yourself giving away this money, and this money growing wings and just disappearing. If, on the other hand, let's say you have $1,000 in your account and you know that $1,000 is for rent, it doesn't matter. Even if there's temptation to buy something, you won't buy it because you know that money is designated for something. If somebody calls you that the sky is falling in their city and they need help, you know, okay, that's money for your rent, you're not going to give it away. Okay, so the point of that is that money must always have a purpose. Okay, if you're going to invest, part of why we invest is to send our money on assignment. Okay, you don't just want money to sit idle. Money should not be sitting idle. It should always be working in the sense that it's buying you your lifestyle, it's buying you freedom for the future, or it's working to help you such that you no longer have to exchange time for money. You understand? You can instead exchange um um what do you call it, money for money. Okay, I'm just going to check my audio real quick just because sometimes this thing switches. Okay, cool, it's perfect. Okay, so now here are the top 10 areas that you can invest in Canada. Okay, so we have decided we want to invest. The background for, if you before you invest, like I always say, you want to make sure you have some things in place. Part of them include having an emergency fund. Okay, emergency fund is usually what's recommended out there is 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses saved for a rainy day or for just when life happens. Okay, as much as possible, try and have an emergency fund. Make sure you're living on a budget. Okay, make sure you already have your ducks in a row. You know what's coming in, you know your inflows, you know your outflows. Because what will happen is, if you end up, for example, let's say you have $10,000, you end up investing it, okay, and you're generating returns of say 10%. But on this other hand, you have debts and other things that are, costing you upwards of 20%. Then what it is you're doing on this side does not make any sense. Okay, so you want to make sure you have some of those backgrounds and some of those things in place. But um that being said, let's talk about some of the areas where you can invest in Canada. So, in, for example, in Nigeria, for example, if you didn't want to invest your money, you can always put your money. A lot of people do something called fixed deposits, okay, whereby you put in your money, you lock it in for a certain period, and some banks will pay you north of 15%. That's in Nigeria. The equivalent here in Canada is something called a GIC, okay, but they don't pay anywhere near 15%, okay. So in order for you to generate those type of returns that you would do on a fixed deposit, say in Nigeria, you're going to have to expand, beyond the fixed deposit arena. Okay, so where are some of those arenas you can expand into? The first one is stocks or equities. So this is in general. So basically, you own a portion of a company. You can buy Apple shares, for example. You can buy Facebook shares. That's equities. You understand? So you own a part of a company. That's one area you can invest in if you're looking for where to invest. Number two is bonds or fixed income. So bonds is basically you're loaning your money to this person, to this company, and that company is going to pay you interest over a certain period of time and then return your principal to you. So it's usually called fixed income. You would find a lot of people that are in their older years, because they want to protect their principal, putting money in fixed income assets or in bonds in general. There's also real estate. So, for example, it's one of the things that's happening in Canada a lot. Back in the day, historically speaking, in North America or in countries in general, usually when people had extra money, rather than do real estate, they would open a business. So they would save up money in order to start a business or start their follow their passion on something. Let's say, for example, you have someone whose family has always done farming. What they want to do is, oh, I watched the movie recently. I think it's the movie of Lamborghini. That's actually a perfect example. So this guy decides, okay, he wants to make tractors because he was in the war. He became a mechanic. He learned a lot. So his family was doing farming. So what he did was he saved money from the farming, took money from his dad's farm, right? And used that money to start his tractor business, which ended up becoming very successful. And then he started making luxury cars in the form of Lamborghini. Okay. So that's how people did it back in the day. Current day folks, rather than start a business, what they do is they take that money, all the excess funds they have, and instead buy real estate. Okay, it's part of what has contributed to the high cost of living and the high cost of housing in general in our society. Okay, so real estate is another place you can invest. Okay, number four is commodities. Okay, things like agriculture, gold, silver, oil, forex, cryptocurrency, those all fall under the commodity bucket. Okay. Again, for those that are just joining us, these are basically areas where you can put your money into. Okay. We're going to talk about registered or non-registered accounts, how to open a brokerage account, and picking how to pick mutual funds and ETFs. Again, I'm hoping this is just an overview. Ideally, we will take a deep dive into stocks and bonds and real estate, but we just don't have that time today. Okay. So number five is mutual funds and ETFs. So mutual funds, is pooled investment. So basically, what does pooled mean? You, me, and every other person, we put our money together, and then collectively that money is then taken and used to buy whether equities, fixed income, real estate, commodities, whatever. Okay. So pooled investments, basically we put money together, and then that money is used to buy various companies, various assets for whatever reason. In different areas. Okay. Number six, we have cash and cash equivalent. So this is where your fixed deposits or your GIC is coming. So in Nigeria, it's called fixed deposits. Here, it's called GICs. GICs mean guaranteed investment certificates. If you want to take a deep dive into this, I've done previous lives where I went deep into, like, we did GIC just for that live. So for the whole time, I taught on just GICs. I've done different ones for RESPs, RRSPs, TFSs and co. So if you want to go and check out, there's a link in YouTube as well if you want to look at some of the old lives we've done on some of these topics. Okay. The next thing you can put money in, number seven, is private equity or venture capital. Now, when a lot of people hear venture capital, they assume it's just for a select few. Anybody can be a venture capitalist, okay? Anybody can enter into private equity. What that basically means is you are investing directly in a private business. So in stocks, bonds, and co, you're investing in publicly traded entities, okay? So it's on a public forum, like, the New York Stock Exchange and blah, blah, blah. If you don't want to do that, let's say, for example, your neighbor decides they want to open a cleaning business, or they want to open a salon, or they want to open a restaurant, or they want to start a business of any kind. Okay. For example, the case I was talking about with Lamborghini, for example, when he started, his business was a private business. Okay. He could have had friends and whatnot that said, oh, I believe in your dream. I have money I'm not using. Here, take this money and use it to grow this business. Okay. That's private equity in a nutshell. You take your money and you invest it in a business that you know for sure you believe in what they're trying to do, and you feel you can generate, X amount of returns from that business. Okay. Anybody can enter into venture capitalism or private equity. You just have to have the capital to start. Okay. You also have oh Jesus, help me today. Alternative investments. I apologize early. I'm currently recovering from a cold and I'm running on less than 6 hours of sleep. So please forgive me if I seem a little tired today. So alternative investments includes things like art, wine, classic cars, even farmland in some cases. You know, think of your, things that are not necessarily direct like that. So for example, if you're a fan of Love is Blind, there was this guy on in this particular season that kept talking about, oh, I don't want a girl to choose me because of my money. He's an art dealer, like his family deals in art. And I think he said it, I don't know how many times, maybe 20 times. I'm like, Uncle, please sit down. We know you are rich. Just say you don't want everybody to know you are rich. He didn't end up, I don't know if he matched. No, he did match, but it was not the best of stories. Anyways, so that's another way that people can use to generate wealth. You start buying, expensive art, expensive wine, and start collecting it. And before you know it, you've amassed some sort of uh asset base. Okay. The ninth thing, again, this is not in any particular order, that you can put money in, is a business. Okay. I kind of mentioned it earlier. So, but in private equity, it's not necessarily your business, it's someone else's business that you are investing in. In this particular case, this is you investing in your own business. So again, Lamborghini is the best example. I've used it how many times now. So this guy decides, he's fresh from the war, he has the skill, he wants to start a tractor business for himself. He puts his money into that business, and that's how he invests. Okay. And obviously the business generated multiple returns for him, and he used those returns to end up, developing a luxury car business in the form of Lamborghini. Okay. So number 10, and last but not least, is to invest in yourself. So your education, your certification, reskilling, upskilling, that is also a quality use where you can pour money. For example, if you have $10,000 today, you're somebody, say you have a master's in HR, for example, okay, and you have $10,000 and you're trying to decide, should you invest or should you use that money to, say, pick up a certification like the CHRP designation, when it comes to HR. By investing that $10,000, say, in that designation, let's say if you invest in the designation today, your potential to make more money increases by, 2 or 3 or even 4x. Okay. Like you might decide, okay, if I become, let's say you're currently not a CPA or you're currently not a certified professional, but if you get that certificate or if you get that certification, you can make $20,000 more per year, for example. Okay, so that $10,000, you've invested it in yourself, and now you're generating $20,000 per year extra for the next X amount of years. So you see that $10,000 was an amazing investment into yourself. Okay, so these are some of the top 10 areas you can invest if you're looking to invest. So now let's talk about how you can actually invest that money in Canada. So in Canada, we have registered and non-registered accounts. Again, I've done a deep dive on registered versus non-registered accounts in a previous live, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. What are registered accounts? Registered accounts, when you hear it, don't let anybody intimidate you with it. The basic premise of a registered account is that there is some sort of tax advantage associated with that account, okay? And that account is registered with the government and reported to the government on an annual, monthly, quarterly, whatever basis as determined by the government and the tax code, okay? So we have, tax legislation and whatnot. The TFSA, there's a whole section on it in the tax code. The RRSP in the tax code, RESP, they're all well defined there. Okay. Non-registered accounts are basically, they don't have a tax advantage associated with them. This means if you invest $10,000 today and that $10,000 makes $1,000, you pay the tax on the $1,000 right away. Okay. So provided you sell, okay, provided you realize the gain. Okay. And I'm not going to go into realized or non-realized gains and whatnot. That's a whole nother class. Okay. But basically what happens is, if you invest $10,000 today, okay, and you make $1,000, depending on how that $1,000 is made, you may have to pay tax today. Okay, so let's say you decide to put the $10,000 in fixed income. So we talked about bonds, right? So that's your fixed income asset class. They are paying you interest annually. Let's say the interest is $1,000. Interest income is taxed right away. Okay, so you're going to pay tax on that $1,000 right away. If, for example, the $10,000 grew to 11,000 because your stock in Apple grew or your stock in Tesla grew, okay, you've not sold that stock yet. Okay, until you sell, you're not going to have any capital gain. Okay, so you don't have to pay tax on that $1,000 right away until the day when you sell that asset. Okay, so that's, again, I'm not going to go into all that. That's a tax class. Hopefully I'll have some time closer to tax season to go into what some of this information looks like. But basically, a registered account means there's some sort of tax advantage associated with it. Okay, it's reported to the government. Non-registered account, same thing. It's also reported to the government. It's just there's no tax. There's none. Like there's it's non-tax advantage. That's just the easiest way to remember for both of them. Tax advantage, registered account, no tax advantage, or not that there's no tax advantage, just non-tax advantage. That's a better way to put it. Just because depending on how you plan, you can also maximize your taxation on your registered or non-registered accounts. Okay, so let's talk about some of the main registered versus non-main registered accounts. You have your RRSPs. So again, if you followed this channel long enough, we always talk about your RRSPs, your registered accounts are containers. The RRSP, the TFSA, the RESP is not an investment in and of itself. What it is, it's a container that can hold investment. So you see the top 10 areas we just talked about, the equities, bonds, business, real estate, cash and cash equivalent, private equity, blah, 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 blah. Depending on what's allowed, you can hold all these investments inside a TFSA, inside an RRSP. Okay. So what that means is, as your assets grow, okay, as you continue contributing, okay, whatever you're putting inside, how it's going to be treated from a tax perspective is what is, the registered side is defining. Okay, so those accounts are buckets. Okay, they can hold those investments. Okay, so again, if you've been following us long enough, you know exactly what that means. That in the sense of your registered accounts are just buckets, they are not an account. So when you see people advertising, invest in a TFSA today, they're not meaning that you should come and buy a TFSA. No, what they mean is you open a TFSA and then you buy, because what happens is people will open a TFSA and put money in there and think they've invested. No, you've not done anything. You must take that money and then use it to buy some of the things we talked about in the first section, the top 10 areas you can invest in. So once you've opened your TFSA or your RRSP or your RESP, whatever, you've put money inside. Let's say you put $4,000. Okay, you now have to take that 4,000 and use it to buy something, mutual fund, buy an ETF, buy a stock, or buy a bond, or buy a portion in a private equity arrangement. Okay, or depending on what is allowed. So for example, some of these accounts don't allow you to buy art, or like, say for example, the alternative investments we talked about. You can't use your RSP, for example, to buy something like a classic car. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, that there are limitations and whatnot, but I think that's beyond the scope of what we're discussing today. So your RRSP is one of the, I'm going to discuss the 5 main registered accounts. There are a whole bunch more, but I'm not going to go into details on those ones, just because these are the ones that generally affect most people. Your RRSP, what's the purpose of an RRSP? It's to help you save for retirement. The benefit includes contributions are tax deductible and the growth is tax deferred. Okay. Some of the limitations include withdrawals are taxed as income. Okay, so you put money in today, there's an advantage today. Tomorrow, when you want to withdraw that money, that's when the government takes their tax. The government is like, invest today, we won't disturb you. Tomorrow, once your money has grown well and you now want to eat from it, we too, that's when we will eat too, when it has grown. Okay. The contribution rule is also limited. It's limited to 18% of your annual income, and there's an annual max of 31,000 plus as of 2024. So that means even if you make way more, so if you're in that category, you're making over 250k, 300k, whatever k, there's a limitation on how much you can put into your RRSP. The second type of account is the TFSA. So it's called the tax-free savings account. Okay. I say it all the time. They usually say it's a tax-free savings account, yes, but it really should be called a tax-free investment account, because you're supposed to use it for investing, not just savings. Okay. The purpose of the account is to help you save for any purpose, including retirement. You can use your TFSA to save for a down payment, to save for your next car, to put money aside for whatever reason. Okay, but you can have that money invested. There are people that are making millions in their TFSA, okay, today, because they started early and they invested often. Okay, some of the benefits include there's no tax deduction or deferral. So you don't get any tax benefits upfront, but tomorrow when you go to withdraw the money, the government also does not disturb you. They don't give you any tax benefit now because you're putting in after tax dollars into your TFSA. When you go to withdraw it, they don't give you any issue. The money can grow to infinity and beyond, and they still will not tax you. Okay, some of the limitations include there are steep penalties for when you over contribute. So there's a limitation in how much you can put in. If you over contribute, you pay 1% tax per, I believe it's per month, for every single month that you are over contributed, which adds up. And of course, there's a limit each year. I believe the limit for 2024 is either 6 or 7,000. So that's the max you can put in, plus or minus prior year contribution room. The RESP is another account. So it's the Registered Education Savings Plan. This is to help you save for your children's post-secondary education. And they don't necessarily have to use it for post-secondary education. Okay. So if your child decides they want to go to trade school or they want to do anything, so basically it's just for post-secondary matters. Okay. If your child decides they want to, follow their passion and do something else, there are other availabilities that you can use the RESP for. I've done a whole video on it. If you want to check that out, there's a link below to some of the prior lives. I do a deep dive on RESP there as well. The benefits include the growth is tax deferred. So you're putting in after tax dollars, but they don't charge you any tax on the growth. When your child decides to withdraw from this account, that's when it is taxed, and it is taxed at your child's tax rate. Okay. So for example, let's say you're the parent, you're making 250,000, you put money in an RESP. When that child goes to withdraw the money, it's the tax is at your child's tax rate, which is one of the major benefits, instead of your own tax rate. Okay. So even if you're a high income earner, you don't have to worry. It's your child tax rate that gets to use that. Some of the limitations include there's a $50,000 contribution room. So, that's the max you can put in per child. One of the things I really like about the RESP now is they have the family RESP. So rather than open an individual RESP for each child, you can open a family account, right? Let's say you have 3 children, you put in 150,000 and let that 150 grow together, and all those children can withdraw from it as they need, as opposed to having it separated, which is nice, right? Especially when you think of compounding and whatnot. Um, the next registered account to know about is the FHSA, or the First Home Savings Account. So the purpose of this account is to help Canadians in general to save for their first home. So if you've already bought a home, this does not apply to you. Contributions, it's like, so for the FHSA, think of it, the benefits of the RASP and the RRSP and the benefits of the TFSA is like a hybrid. Okay, so the benefits include that contributions are tax deductible. So any money you put in, you get a tax benefit today, or a tax advantage today. And when you do withdraw the money is also withdrawn tax free. So it can grow to infinity and beyond. And the money there's no tax on it when you withdraw it to buy your house. The major limitation of this account is that the maximum you can put in is $40,000. Okay, and you must be a first-time home buyer. If you know anything about housing now in Canada, $40,000 is like, it might not even reach 5% in some cases. But again, because you're investing the money, you're not just saving the money. You can take 40,000, okay, and multiply it, invest it, allow it to grow, and of course, you end up having more than 40, and hopefully be able to do something with that. The other account I want to talk about that a lot of people don't talk about is the LIRA, the locked in retirement account. So, did you know in Canada, if you're leaving a job where you have a pension, you don't have to leave your pension behind. You can have your pension rolled into something called a locked in retirement account. So, let's say, for example, you work for 10 years for Alberta Health Services because you're a doctor, you're a nurse, whatever. They've been paying into a pension for you. When you leave that job, let's say you're moving to Switzerland because you like the air there, you can actually move your pension into something called a locked-in retirement account. So a locked-in retirement account, the purpose of it is to hold pension money when you leave a job. You don't have to leave your pension behind. There's a lot of misinformation out there that you can't move your pension with you, and that's not true. You can move your pension. You just have to ask for it. There's also a window. So if you're leaving the job, make sure you request and make sure you take out as much as you can. Move it into a locked-in retirement account. Some of the benefits I really like about this is, one, the growth is tax deferred. So similar to a pension or an RRSP, they're not going to tax you until when you start making withdrawals. Okay. I really like it because you have control over what the money is invested in. Okay, because you don't know what the pension manager, and I know they pay professionals and whatnot to do this. So I'm not saying take your money out if you can't even take it out if you're still with the job. But what I'm saying is don't leave your money behind. Same thing if you have a TFSA, RRSP, whatnot with a previous job, make sure you don't leave it behind. Take it with you, have control over it, and go from there. Limitations of this account include the money is locked in until retirement, because if you had been in the pension, you won't be able to touch it until retirement anyways. So in this particular case, the money is also locked in until retirement. But there are special circumstances where you can actually take the money out and move it into, say, an RRSP, for example. But it's under very special circumstances, which we're not going in this live. Some other registered accounts you should know about include the RIF, so the Registered Retirement Income Fund. So when you reach 71, your RRSP, you're required to start making withdrawals. Okay, so your RRSP is basically transformed into a RIF, which I don't think there are any 71-year-olds here, so I won't go into details. There's also something called the RDSP. This one is very important. If you have children with special needs, you definitely want to look into this account. Okay, so this will allow you have some sort of savings and finances, investments in order, such that if when you leave this earth, that particular child you're leaving behind is going to have this money working for them and taking care of them, even with their special needs. Okay, so that's one way to use the RDSP. It's called the Registered Disability Savings Plan. Okay, I will leave the registered, non-registered accounts just because of our time. I didn't think we were going to be able to cover everything today. That's why I named it part 1. So we talked about the top 10 areas you can invest your money in, and then we did a brief overview of registered versus non-registered accounts. Next week, we will talk about, opening a brokerage account. We're going to talk about managed versus self-directed investing. So managed in the sense that you give it to the broker and whatnot. The brokerage account, the money managers, the professionals, you choose their own funds versus you choosing for yourself. And then I want to go over how to pick a mutual fund or ETF. Okay, because a lot of times when you start a job, for example, they give you this brochure from Manulife, from Canada Life, from whoever, and they say pick your investments and let us know which one you want to invest in. And a lot of people don't know how to pick or don't know what to pick. Okay, so I'm going to be going through a fund fact sheet next week, and I will share my screen, and then we can actually see, what are we looking for as a general overview. What are you looking for if you're picking a mutual fund ETF? I'll share that just before we go. And then next week, I would actually put one on screen and we can actually go through in detail what to look for. You want to review the fund facts, so always ask for the fund fact sheet. If they don't have one, you can find it online. So if you're investing in, say, something that's held within Vanguard or BlackRock, iShares, or Fidelity, all of them have their fund fact sheet online. Okay, so you just need the ticker or the code for that fund. For example, VOO is the Vanguard is Vanguard's S&P index. It's their index. It's S&P indexed mutual fund. Okay, so you can take that VOO, put it online, and it will pop up, the fund fact sheet on the Vanguard website. So what you're looking for in that is you want to look at the track record. You want to look at, okay, how has this particular fund been performing over the last, 20, 10, 35, 1 year. You want to see how has it been doing. Okay, for example, 4 years ago we had COVID. What was it like in that season? 10 years ago, that was what, 2014. Okay, what were some of the things in that season? And you just want to look at, okay, how has this thing performed over time? Okay, it's usually the fun fact sheet usually is in the brochure. So if this is through work, let's say you have a new job and you have to pick an investment, it's usually in that brochure that they give you for picking the fund you want your TFSA or your RSP whatnot to go into. The other thing you want to look at is the returns over time. Okay, so on average, what are the returns looking like over time? What's the average returns of this particular investment? You want to look at the fees. Okay, what are the fees that are going to be charged? Okay, you also want to look at the underlying assets, like if the fund is invested in, mostly cryptocurrencies and blah blah blah. Is that something you want to be invested in? Okay, if the fund is invested in, companies like Apple, Tesla, Meta, the usual suspects. Okay, you want to look at what are the underlying assets. Is it mostly invested in companies in the US or companies in, that are international, so the UK, Japan, Belgium, whatever, so those are some of the things you want to look at, and then how to actually decide what you want to pick. We'll talk about some of that next week. So this was a part 1 general overview, and then next week we will go into some of the details, how to open a brokerage account, which we've done before if you've been following us long enough, but just to give information to those that are newer amongst us. and those that are wanting to actually follow through this time around. So if you are new here, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. We will continue next week. This was a part one. We will continue part two next week and go into details. If you have questions, make sure you leave us a comment or leave us send us a direct message, and we will take your questions from there. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Enjoy. Bye.